Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Star Sports Podcast. I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Thanks for being patient with us this week. Usually we post this show on Tuesday or Wednesday. This week was different because we had to wait for the Chiefs coverage group to get back from Germany. They took the long route home and didn't arrive back until midweek. But there's plenty to talk about with beat writer Jesse Newell and columnists Sam McDowell and Vahe Gregorian, starting with the game itself, a victory over the Miami Dolphins. We do a deep dive on one play from the Chiefs' defense and one from the offense before getting into some mid-season awards for the team. Okay, let's get going with our jet-lagged crew. Jesse hasn't taken his coat off, I think, since before he left.
It's pretty cold there, I'm just getting used to it,
But was good. Were good times had away from the game?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was, although I will say we stayed an extra day, and that was the goodest of times. But I will also say, I don't want to speak for these guys, but I'll start trying to.
I was going to say, that's never stopped me before.
The game itself, I thought, was a really cool experience. The lead-up was okay and interesting, but a little segmented. We didn't get that much time with the Chiefs. We didn't get that much time around Frankfurt. We saw some things in terms of the Chiefs championship and got to see the mayor and got to see some fans and some things like that. But the game itself, just walking in there, felt pretty cool. And I think we're all cognizant of sort of the juxtaposition and meshing of the cultures all at once. It was just kind of this strange incongruity, and yet there it was, all in one kind of performative burst. And I thought it was pretty cool.
So it's a 50,000 seat stadium with a retractable roof, which was closed, I guess, right, for the game.
It was closed, and in fact, that led to I guess it had to be closed because I don't know where that scoreboard would normally be hanging.
Right.
But I mean, for the minute we were out there, I think we were all looking up thinking somebody's going to hit that scoreboard with a punt. And
it did happen.
Sure enough.
The Dolphins punter got it. But what was was it an NFL-like crowd? Were there enough Chiefs fans there, Chiefs and Dolphins fans, to make it seem like an NFL crowd? Because what I kept hearing was, if it was like a soccer crowd, there would be constant noise throughout, and that's not an NFL crowd.
I think that surprised me most because you're the guys talking about going like to London in 2015, where there's just constant noise because basically people over there didn't know the sport well enough yet, So, 3rd and 15, you gain 12 yards. That's a great play. You start cheering. But these fans seemed into it and like knowing when to make noise for the Chiefs on defense. I know Andy Reid afterwards said the crowd won them the game, which is something similar to what you hear at Arrowhead. But I was sort of anticipating just sort of a soccer buzz throughout the whole thing. But it felt like I know Sporting Park is not quite, or Children's Mercy Park is a little bit smaller than this, but it felt like playing a Chiefs game there. It was really loud, really intimate, almost a little bit like when KU plays in the Maui Invitational and you play in the high school gym and there's these fans that are really into it. I thought the fans were into it. I thought they were smart about the game, and I guess this sort of makes sense. I kind of think about a lot of people over here where the kind of cool thing to do sometimes is watch international soccer in the mornings. It seems like over there now the cool thing to do is to watch NFL football in the evenings, and the people over there follow it now better than they did. So, I was pretty surprised by the crowd and how good they were, how loud they were, and how in tune they were to the game. Because when the Chiefs needed a boost, I thought they definitely got it.
I may not get the German correct here, surprise, but we did, in looking over the next day's newspapers that we came across, there was one that the Frankfurt paper itself had a picture of Patrick Mahomes going through the stands or by the front of the stands, high-fiving people, and the headline was "Football Conquers Germany," and then there was some subtext, and the final line of the subtext was "Even without Taylor Swift," which just was sort of funny in itself. But the thing you just made me think of, Blair, was another German paper had just a little, maybe 4 paragraphs on the front page with a little thumbnail photo to tease to it inside, and it had a quote from the Kansas City trainer, Andy Reid. And the only words I could make out were loud, which I think is L-A-U-T. It was like the fans were loud and aggressive. And I think that is sort of the summary of what the fans were like in the Chiefs' estimation anyway.
Well, I like the headline in the Star on Monday, which is where much of the coverage landed because the game was early enough on Sunday. Victory in Germany, right from World War II.
Somehow, I was going back through the papers this morning, I guess, and I didn't quite take in all the meaning of that.
But hey, we won then, and the Chiefs won now. So good times for everyone. But they ended up winning 21-14 over the Miami Dolphins. There were a lot to talk about. We'll touch on a few things. The main thing I wanted to discuss from the game itself was what I consider the defensive play of the year. And I don't know in the history of Facebook Lives and Big O Tire gatherings and podcasts that have covered Chiefs games, if we've ever seen a play on the defensive side that was as fascinating as the one that the Chiefs turned right before half when Trent McDuffie stripped the ball from Tyreek Hill after a short reception, recovered by Mike Edwards, who lateraled it to Brian Cook, who went for the touchdown. It was an amazing play, and Chiefs don't win the game without that play. So what was said and what was the sense of that? In fact, it was such an interesting moment that I believe the three players that I just named were brought into the interview room together, right? Afterwards?
Yeah. It was McDuffie, Brian Cook, and Edwards. Yeah. I talked to all of them in the locker room too, and it was sort of an interesting backstory. Mike Edwards said that he picked off a pass he couldn't remember whether it was earlier that week or late in the week before, but within the last 7 days or so in practice and lateral to Justin Reed, and he said Justin Reed was kind of surprised by it. So the defensive backs started talking about, hey, we're going to do that in a game. Like, we're going to lateral the way that Mike Edwards phrased. He said, we're going to lateral our way to the end zone. And Joshua Williams also told the story. And I asked L'Jarius Sneed about it. He's like, oh, I forgot about that. That's crazy. That just happened in a game. I don't know if Andy Reid would have approved of that plan if he had known that was an actual discussion with players. Right. But to what you just said, Blair, I think it already would have been like the most captivating defensive play probably in the Andy Reid era. But the fact that it was a Tyreek Hill mistake that started it, just totally
sweeten the pot, didn't it?
Yeah, just sort of, just totally amplifies just the significance of that play. And like I wrote in the column, one play is not going to make or break this Tyreek Hill trade. I think that the conclusion and the finality of that trade should have been decided long ago. But that does segue to where the Chiefs are now, which is this team that, look, at the end of that game in Germany, the defense was required to win that game. I actually think that was the more comfortable spot than asking the offense to go down the field and score. And I can't believe that's a true statement in the Patrick Mahomes era, but that defense is built on the back of that Tyreek Hill trade. I know people were making a big deal of Trent McDuffie, that he caused it. Like, they didn't directly get that pick from Tyreek Hill, but the attitude at that time was this thing's going to be built on depth. And that's where their defense is. That's why their defense is really good. Nick Bolton, the leader of that defense, is out right now, and they just held the Dolphins to their best offense in the league to their very worst outing of the season.
20 points below their average, and the three of us in the press tribune, I guess we'd call it, instead of press box, I think we'll all, maybe a lot of Chiefs fans will remember this too, but I think there's some plays you see in your sports writing career that just are going to stick with you. And that, I feel like that's one of those handful or a dozen that's going to always be etched in our minds just because of the really jaw-dropping way it played out. And one of the things with Brian Cook was that the Next Gen Stats had the bit where that was the fastest a Chiefs ball carrier ran with the ball this season.
Yeah, which also speaks like they've gone away from speed on offense this year. But there were a few elements of that play. Look, Trent McDuffie wasn't involved in turnovers last year. He's already forced 4 fumbles this year.
Leads the league.
It's clearly been an emphasis for a player that I think we all think is already like he's playing at a Pro Bowl level this year. He's potentially a future All-Pro player. Then you've got Mike Edwards, who Jesse and I talked about throughout camp, did not have a great training camp, and he has been involved in a lot of key plays over the past month or so. He also blocks as soon as he laterals the ball. And then you've got Brian Cook, who did not even run a good 40 time. And it was funny to hear the way that Patrick Mahomes didn't just say that Brian Cook ran fast. He described the way he was, he got his knees up. I told him he's got to get his knee. We heard him use that phrase with Rashee Rice after the Chargers game. He's got to get his knees up. It's like there were a lot of players that were very in tune after the game with the way that play had unfolded during the game. And I think different players were different parts of that play animated different players differently, probably.
It would have. It's an unforgettable play, no matter the outcome of the game. But the Chiefs needed to win for us to remember this play as fondly as Chiefs fans are going to remember it. Yeah. And the Chiefs, and it was a great moment for the defense. Another great moment for the defense was the final series that Miami had, and facing the where were they? They got into about after the 2 runs by Mostert, they got down to about the 30, the Chiefs 30, and then the Chiefs forced a couple of an incompletion from Tua, and then the bad snap to end the game. But that was set up by what I thought was the worst moment for the Chiefs in this game, and that was the call on 3rd and 1. From the 19, and Chiefs couldn't convert it. The play calling was suspect as far as I'm concerned, and it also magnifies a problem that we have seen throughout the first half of this season, Chiefs in short yardage situation. What was the level of groan in the stadium from the Chiefs fans?
There was an exchange in the post game. Jesse was there post game, so I think he should describe. It was our old buddy Adam Teicher and Andy having an exchange about that play.
Well, yeah, he asked him about why pass the ball in that situation, and Andy basically said, if I pass it, you're going to ask me why I run it, and if I run it, you're going to ask me why I pass it. He did. If you watch, he said this in the post game. Andy did, and he also said if you watch the post game video the Chiefs posted their side, he says, "O-line, I owe you one." I owe you one.
In the locker room, you're talking about after the game.
After the game, he also said it to reporters. He said, to Adam's question, he said, I owe the offensive line one because I should have trusted them that particular play. Now, I will go a little bit on the other side of this because the very first possession that we're going to laud them for, they had a 3rd and 1. They ran a very, very similar play, which was a pick play for Travis Kelce. They did that old H-back dive that they ran with so much success with Michael Burton, and they faked it. And Travis Kelce runs right into Sky Moore's man. Sky Moore's the guy in the backfield. He swings out, and they throw an easy pass. It's 6 yards. Mm-hmm. They run a very similar play on this 3rd and 1, Blair, if you watch it again. The thing is that Miami has switched up its coverage. And this is kind of, to me, a bigger picture what we're looking at with the Chiefs here, which is these scripted plays from Andy Reid are still the scripted plays from Andy Reid. When he's picking on tendencies and what he thinks defenses are going to do, they march down the field. In this particular play, Travis Kelce does the same thing. He comes around, he picks Noah Gray's man what he thinks, except Miami switches the coverage on it. And so they have a guy just waiting on the outside to meet up with Noah Gray. Mahomes panics a little bit, rolls out to his right when all his receivers are on the left. Looked like Sky Moore beat some man coverage way, way down the field. He was looking at Sky Moore. He didn't throw it. How many times is that like on your bingo card? Patrick Mahomes looks at Sky Moore and doesn't throw it. But again, it speaks to some of the issues the Chiefs have, which is Andy can still scheme it up. They can still surprise defenses. It's just the defenses now are adjusting, and the Chiefs are struggling to find answers to those adjustments, and or they are getting really good at these scripted plays because they have young players, and they're not as good at the ones that are unscripted that they don't know are coming in a particular week. So anyway, this 3rd and 1 play is kind of fascinating because it does speak to a lot of the Chiefs' issues, which is Mahomes trusts his receivers, the Chiefs being able to execute plays that they don't practice all week and are outside the 15 that they start with, and the Chiefs being able to sort of adjust, the defense is adjusting to them. Miami made a good adjustment that game. The Chiefs were not able to adjust to that, and that's why that pass didn't work, along with, again, not trusting your offensive line potentially in a run situation when you just needed to get the 1 yard.
There's if you also go back and watch that play, any other team looks at that play and says, wow, the quarterback sneak is just wide freaking open.
Yeah. I saw some views.
Miami only has 4 down linemen. Usually in 3rd and short, you got to put 5 guys on the ground. You got to put probably 3 defensive tackles, 2 of them lined up over center. Miami just knows that the Chiefs, that's out of the Chiefs playbook. Like whenever the Chiefs ultimately decide to actually run that play, first of all, I think it's going to have to be Patrick Mahomes just calling it in the huddle himself. But I also think it would be saved for an AFC Championship, Super Bowl type thing. But it's going to work because teams are defending this other stuff. And I actually thought the most telling thing about what Andy Reid said is, as far as if I would have run it, you would ask him about, like, he's basically acknowledging that what they have is not working on short yardage. Because he could have said, well, if he actually truly believes the run would work, fair to him. We don't ask about a lot of these when they work because they're so glaring when they do not. And we are grading the Chiefs on a curve. I mean, they're average. They're average at this. We're grading on the curve of having a much better than average offense. Why are they only average at this? And I really think that one of the primary issues is the ugly play is just out of their playbook.
Can we speak to this too? And I'll let you talk here, Vahe. But I mean, I think so much of the AFC Championship game, the Bengals dropped 8 in coverage because they couldn't run the football. And when the Bengals beat them, so last year what they do, they loaded up on tight ends, they got Isaiah Pacheco, and in some of these situations they could run the football. And now they're back with these new tackles, I would say, and potentially some of their interior players, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, not quite run blocking the way they have in the past. They're back to a point where I feel like it's 2 years ago where, man, it would be nice, as Andy Reid said, if you trust your O-line, and you can trust your O-line, and you can just go up the middle and run the football. But I think we are back at a point where part of the reason Patrick Mahomes is uncomfortable because he's feeling like he's not only having to carry receivers, but he's also carrying a run game that's kind of non-existent right now. And they haven't run blocks as well. Now, I think this game they did better against Miami than previous games, but it still brings up kind of that thought, which is I thought so much of what they figured out last year was, hey, you can run the football at certain times, be successful with it, and be okay. I know they had some of the short yardage problems last year as well, but it just doesn't feel like the run offense is quite where it needs to be. Miami might have been a step in the right direction. They did run the ball with some success, but it just has kind of been disjointed, it feels like, for the whole season.
The only other thing I'd add about the sneak notion here is, I mean, you do look at different angles of that play, and it's so wide open for a sneak that as sophisticated as the Chiefs' offense is, all the range of things, Patrick's allowed to deviate to and adjust to and call and all the ways these guys, read each other's minds. It's sort of stunning to me that there's not just he can tap Creed on the hip and say, let's just go.
It could be. That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
he was under center too for this play.
And so part of what I wonder is, and we all think about these things, right? But maybe that's only good for something you can do one time, and why do it there? And maybe it's going to pay big dividends in the AFC Championship game or something.
It does remind me of quarterback though. Remember Kirk Cousins did that?
Yeah.
And you don't want Kirk Cousins doing that. So again, it opens you up to a whole new thing. But with Mahomes, you probably trust him.
But in that case, it was goal line and 5, 6, 7 down linemen. I mean, this was, as Sam pointed out, four down linemen. Not only that, spaced out. I mean, it was like a safe play.
It was just so funny. Like Kevin Conn was just incredulous.
I know he was.
Fourth and goal.
Would you do that?
What are you doing? Why would you do that?
My only, and I know we've got other topics, Blair, but
but we don't care about those.
No, this is significant.
my thought on it though is if you, it's like, I actually do think the Chiefs, this play is in the Chiefs playbook. I disagree with the notion that it's just totally out of their playbook because I think Patrick Mahomes wants it to be in their playbook. And so I think the one thought is you save it for when you need it. An AFC Championship, Super Bowl. But I think the opposite thought of that is because of what we saw Miami doing. If the Chiefs had already run that this year, Miami would not have had the ability to play with 4 down linemen on that play. And first of all, if they're going to play with 4 down linemen, they do need to run the ball. And if they're not able to run the ball, that's the other problem. Which you look on Pro Football Focus, 4 of their linemen, everyone but Trey Smith, is significantly better at pass block than they are run block. Like, it is a large. You just looked at their pass blocking, you'd say this is a really good offensive line. You just looked at the run blocking, you'd say this is a really bad offensive line. Like, it's a big time gap. But 4 down linemen, you got to run the ball. But I do think the quicker the Chiefs are just willing to show that they're willing to run the play, the more defenses will change and at least say, we got to consider this play. It's got to at least be in the back of our minds.
What I'm just to continue the thought on the running game, we need to spend more time talking about the offensive line and the progress of the new tackles, and I do think the interior of the offensive line is kind of taking a step back collectively.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Yes.
From last season. But Isaiah Pacheco, the hardest running back, in the NFL, it averages more than 4 yards per carry, didn't get a chance in that situation. Jerick McKinnon, who was the AFC Offensive Player of the Month, the final month of last season, has like 12 rushing attempts this year. I don't know. The Chiefs no longer, I guess they have completely abandoned the idea of the jet sweep or the pop pass. And I'm not saying that was the occasion to use it, but I'm just looking for reasons why the running game isn't what I think it should be. And those elements are missing from the Chiefs.
Well, I think the jet sweep is because whatever I just mentioned about the run blocking, like the tackles are on the biggest extremes of it, and there's a lot of execution that your tackles have to make that play work. But you're right, we haven't seen that play with the same regularity. And I mean, God, the Chiefs already had a guy on the roster that could run it. Now they've acquired another one a few weeks ago. So,
But by the way, not with same regularity, but nowhere near the same success. I mean, I feel like it's been a dud almost every time that we have seen it, hasn't it?
Well, and I remember breaking down one. I mean, not only your end guys on the offensive line, the receivers have to block. I remember Rashee Rice blew one completely on a short yardage play that backed him up. So you have to have everybody executing on this, and so we shouldn't just pick on the tackles. You have to have perimeter guys doing their job as well. Ben Baldwin does some great stuff on Twitter, but he kind of takes different metrics that that separately rank offensive line rankings in both pass blocking and run blocking, puts them together so you kind of get a nice view of the crowds basically on some of these advanced measures. Chiefs right now are 4th in pass blocking in the NFL and 26th in run blocking according to those measures. So, Blair, I think probably the answer to your question is the simplest answer, which is, for one, passing is more successful in the NFL than running. You'd rather be a good passing team than a running team. I think the Chiefs had a big benefit last year by being able to run the football, but at some point you want to play to your strengths too. And I know Patrick Mahomes has been hesitant to throw the football, which has been a big part of him taking these sacks and having these negative plays in recent games. But all in all, the last 2 games, I thought they pass blocked pretty well. And so at some point you just sort of, I think for Andy Reid, just kind of look at this, or Matt Nagy, and say, well, is the run blocking going to get better? Maybe. But right now, the pass blocking is better, and you're also putting the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands. So it's kind of a tricky thing to figure out at this point in the season. And having said all that, DVOA, the advanced measure, saying they're like 6th in the NFL instead of 1st like they normally are. So this is not a team that's fallen off the cliff, but it's definitely not the offense we all expected.
And they are, Mahomes is the least sacked quarterback in the NFL.
And that has a lot to do with Mahomes. But in the last 2 games, he's been sacked quite a bit or pressured quite a bit, and that also has a lot to do with Mahomes.
Okay, we are at the mid-season point for the Chiefs. I think the bye comes at a great time for them. I can remember, and Vahe, I bet you remember this too. I believe it was 2016. The Chiefs had a bye, or their bye was the first week it was available, like week 5, right? So they play a month of games, and they get the bye, and they got another 12 games to play. I just think this is the ideal time. You've played Chiefs and everybody else 3 preseason games, 9 regular season games. They'll be in the playoffs, so 8 plus 1, 2, or 3 playoff games. It really does come at the midway point of the season. So good time for the Chiefs to take a week off, and a good time to do some evaluating in terms of some midseason honors for the Chiefs. So I got 3 categories here. I want to get your thoughts on it. I'll just tell you up front, the categories are top defensive player, top newcomer, and most improved player. I didn't do offensive player of the year. It's just hard to balance with a quarterback and all. But and I'm not sure.
Patrick Mahomes. There we go. We can move on to the next one.
Some would say Kelsey, but that's what makes it obvious. Top defensive player of the year. Who's the defensive MVP of the first half of the season?
I mean, I'd take Trent McDuffie. I think that their secondary is the reason. I mean, you look at the numbers. Their secondary is what I think it's like 2nd in pass defense this year as far as the way it's graded. Chris Jones was great for the first 5 weeks. He's been pretty non-existent for the past 2 weeks. Part of that is because of game planning stuff, but I just think Trent McDuffie has really developed into a terrific player this year, and I do think I would take a shutdown cornerback over a really top defensive interior lineman too.
I really can't disagree on McDuffie, and I really no inclination to. I think Sam's point is right about how Chris was. If you'd asked this question 3 weeks ago, maybe I'd have said Chris. But it's also obviously pretty fresh in our minds all that Trent McDuffie did in this game. But it's not like that just came out of nowhere. He's added these dimensions where I can't remember which of you guys pointed this out earlier, but he's created 4 turnovers different ways. And a moment stuck out to me. It was running laterally with Tyreek Hill across the field the other day, which is different than running step for step down the field. But he defended him stride for stride coming across, and I just remember thinking that's to me his speed is an underappreciated part of what he can do. So knows how to cover speed. I do think I never saw a good replay of it. That touchdown in the end zone, I saw a bunch of people suggesting he'd been pushed off pretty well on that play. One way or another, his legs were tangled up. But I think that's my answer too.
Care to make it unanimous, Jesse?
I will make it unanimous. I mean, if there's a tiebreaker between him and Jones, I'd probably just say that he played the first game. So Jones has been really good. He has been. Sam pointed out perfectly, which is the last 2 games he's been not average. He's been kind of bad. But the first 5 games he was really, really good. So if we had taken this 3 weeks ago, I'd definitely say Chris Jones with a bullet. But I would say over the course of the season, it's been McDuffie. And he also allows them to do so many things in their secondary, too, with his flexibility. Sometimes, he allows L'Jarius Sneed to travel. He can play safety if you need him to. He's a really sure tackler. He's aggressive in the run game. But he does so much for them. But I definitely think it's going to be a moment where Chris Jones steps up here late in the season again, and we talk and sing his praises too.
I think that's right. Look, he had his best game in the AFC Championship game a year ago against the Bengals. Okay, top newcomer. That could be a rookie, although not so much with this year's class. More likely a trade or a free agent signing. Jesse, let's start with you on this one.
So who do we got in this category, at least for options? We got Drew Tranquill,
Omenihu,
Rashee
Rice, and
Mike
Edwards.
The 2 offensive tackles.
Yeah,
you can take Jawan Taylor if you want.
That's the wrong category for him. If we had a different category on newcomer, he might fit into that one. Unfortunately for him, with all the penalties, I guess I think the pick is Rashee Rice. Listen, I remember grading the draft and talking to you about it, Sam, and that was kind of the hinge pick of the whole draft for the Chiefs. They traded up for Rashee Rice. It didn't seem like they needed to, and they stuck behind it and said, this is the scouting evaluation that this guy is going to be good, that he can help them right away and serve a certain role for them. And even if the production to this point has been good for him, but I think the promise of what it's going to be is even better as he gets more comfortable. So I'll stick with him in this role and think that, that was one of those where Brad Beach kind of just put it out there in the press conference to say, got to trust the scouts and got to trust him on this one. They got to put his neck out there. So far, they've been right. So I think they deserve credit for that.
Just because I want to take the same one. The only thing I will add on Rice is because I looked this up today, he leads the NFL in yards after catch per reception this year.
Oh, wow.
They throw to Rashee Rice really short passes. His average depth of target's only like 5.2, but 8.2 yards after catch per reception, and which leads all of NFL, not just rookies, among players with at least 20 targets this year.
Just to throw out something different, I'll say Drew Tranquill. He leads the team in tackles, 56, and that's sort of imperfect measure, but it's interesting. Second in sacks. Although third in sacks actually, because Mike Dana and Chris Jones each have 5.5. Drew Tranquill with 3.5. I hadn't realized this. Maybe you guys did. The Chiefs are second in the NFL in sacks. Tied at the Ravens have 35. Chiefs have 31. A couple other teams tied with the Chiefs. But I think I asked myself if they did not have Tranquill in this situation with Bolton out hurt, where would they be? So I like his case.
I'm with you on Drew Tranquill. What a smart get for the Chiefs, as it turns out. Okay, and most improved is the final category here. A lot of candidates for that. I think especially on the defensive side, players like George Karlaftis, McDuffie, Justin Reed, even Brian Cook. Leo Chenal. Singing the praises of the defense. We spent a lot of the show doing that, and I think probably we'll our top candidates are on that side. So, Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think all those. It's remarkable how much the last year's draft class was such a topic, and that this year it's not been the topic. And all of those guys, other than maybe like Sky Moore, has taken a pretty significant step forward. And I mean, that is my point on when I said earlier that this part of this is on the backs of the Tyreek Hill trade. Like, they were able to be flexible in last year's draft, and a lot of these guys just contributed earlier than we thought. But man, Steve Spagnuolo has, and I think Dave Merritt too, have proven to be really good teachers of the game even within it. I know I'm doubling down, and Trent McDuffie had a good year last year, but I still think he's taken such a significant step forward, and it's been the most instrumental to where their defense is playing. So I'm still going to stick with him for this too.
Walking away with all the awards.
Yeah, I find it hard to disagree with that reasoning, and I would have maybe I'd certainly throw Justin Reed into that mix too, only because
Reed's a good one too. Yeah.
I thought Justin was. I don't want to say he was disappointing last year exactly, but I didn't ever feel like he was in the flow of things the way he is now.
You'd go games without realizing that Justin Reed was on the field, to be honest, last year. And that's certainly not been the case this year.
I think Justin really turned on toward the end of last year, but by then he kind of it had been a disappointing start to him at that point. But kind of weeks which is the Bengals game when he talked about the tight end and then didn't have a great game, and then right after that, from about weeks 13 to 18, was really good. But I mean, I think you're sort of arguing honorable mentions here. Unfortunately, these other players, but I mean, Karlaftis has been great for them this year. Like, if there was a question mark maybe about the rookie class last year out of the top guys, I think Karlaftis might have been it. And
first half of the year,
and I don't feel that way anymore. I mean, I think they got a player in Karlaftis.
Top 10 in the NFL in pressures is Karlaftis.
Brian Cook, we have to throw in there. I mean, he's making some big plays now. He seems to know what he's doing, and now he's letting his athleticism play up. You guys mentioned Leo Chanel. An underrated one I do want to also highlight is, and maybe this is where Drew Tranquil's signing helps a lot too, but I think we're seeing the best of Willie Gay. I think he's had a better year than we've seen from him, and part of that might just be he doesn't have to be in there every single snap. Now, things change a little bit when Nick Bolton's out, but he's played really well, and I also want to compliment him because he's played really disciplined. I don't think we've always seen that from him, but there's some of those blitzes where he comes in under control, bats a pass down, where I think he would have just come in at 1,000,000 miles an hour in previous years, and he's had a really good season. But, if you'd have told me Trent McDuffie was going to be our pick for the Defensive Player of the Year halfway through the season for the Chiefs, I wouldn't have believed you before the season. So he has to be the player. He is the most improved for the Chiefs, and I just have to always bring up the fact that, you look at him, if this was flipped and the Chiefs had taken Kyrie Elam and the Buffalo Bills had taken Trent McDuffie, what would we be talking about right now?
He's screaming at the Chiefs.
To Sam's point, maybe that's nurture too. Maybe that is the fact that he gets to work with Steve Spagnuolo. He gets to work in the Chiefs system. He gets to work with Dave Merritt, all those sorts of things. Whatever the case may be, the Chiefs have Trent McDuffie. The Bills have Kyrie Elam. It's a big difference why you have a separation between those two teams. The Chiefs got this one right, and he's been the most improved player for them.
Just one quick note on Karlaftis. He's got 12 sacks in his career. 11 and a half of them have come since week 11 of last year. So it's basically less than a full season where he's had 11 and a half sacks after having half a sack in his first 10 games.
He had that. This last week when he had, he's not ever going to be the guy with the most bend out there, but he's worked to improve himself. We know he went with Tamba Ali to kind of improve that stuff, but he had a little wiggle around the edge and then did that like Derek Thomas chop on the ball. It's the sort of play where you're like, man, the Chiefs probably got something here. Now, last year, it felt more like Chris Jones getting after him. Okay, Karlaftis just keeps working. He keeps working, gets a sack maybe 3.5, 4 seconds in. Hey, you got a hustle play, that's great, but you're taking advantage of maybe other people. This year, it's George Karlaftis being his own man, I think. And so, again, it's hard to like downplay what he's done because I think it's been pretty significant, but it really doesn't compare to, I think, what Trent McDuffie has done. He's taken a major step.
And good chance for me to, say mea culpa on, I mentioned Jones and Dana with 5.5, but George Karlaftis leads them with 6 sacks.
It's I think the two position coaches we hear most about from players themselves are Dave Merritt and Joe Cullen.
Yeah.
Last year's question marks were about the secondary. This year's question marks are about the defensive line. And both of those have not been the weaknesses that we anticipated. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we hear a lot about those position coaches from the players. Andy Reid compliments all of his position coaches. Those are the two we hear about.
I think that's a good point. That's a really good point. One last thought on Karlaftis. He had a game earlier this year. It was at Arrowhead. I can't remember the opponent where he batted down 2 passes.
Yeah.
So he gets his Chargers game, right?
He also has been used a lot in passing to coverage.
Yeah.
Which again speaks
drops in the coverage.
And the fact that we're not talking about that means he's doing his job in that, and it allows. I mean, this is what Steve Spagnuolo does now. He's got versatile players like McDuffie and like Karlaftis that allow him to move these pieces around and do things that kind of confuse offenses. So, again, kudos to Karlaftis, because God knows if people were scoring touchdowns over the top of him, we'd be talking about it. But they aren't, even though he's been used quite a bit for defensive linemen in these sorts of situations.
Okay, final thoughts here. We're about to Chiefs will begin the second half of the season against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. It'll be the third straight week the Chiefs didn't play on a Sunday, but had their Sunday off, right? Europe, bye week, Monday Night Football. So it'll be an abnormal Sunday for 3 straight weeks for the Chiefs. Let me ask you guys a question. Or maybe put it this way. Can we agree that the second half of the schedule more difficult for the Chiefs than the first half of the schedule?
I think somewhat by far.
Yeah.
I think.
They caught some teams at the worst time, too. I mean, Bengals struggled first month and a half of the season. Bengals look pretty good. I think the Bills will be better.
You don't want to face the Raiders right now compared to what you would have in the first half, I think, right?
I think they'll be okay.
If I were
Not as convinced.
If I were to tell you if the season ended today and each AFC, NFC gets 7 playoff teams, which side of the Chiefs' schedule has more playoff teams, the first half or the second half?
I'm just guessing it's a trick question.
It is. The first half has 4 playoff teams, or teams that are in the playoff picture now. The second half, only 2, because Buffalo is not. Buffalo's out. In are Miami and Jacksonville, right? They've already played. And then from the AFC, or the NFC, Detroit and Minnesota are in the playoffs right now.
Well, I'll give you breaking news. The Bills are going to make it. So there you go. Heard it here first.
Well, let's just say 4 teams from the AFC North are not going to make it. They're not going to get all 4 teams.
And unfortunately, the NFC, you got to throw somebody in there.
Right. So I thought that was interesting.
It is interesting, yes.
There are more playoff teams in the first half of the schedule right now than the second half. So, okay, great conversation. Great to have you guys back from Germany, and we'll do it again soon. That'll do it for this episode. Thanks to producer Monty Davis for putting together the show, and to our SportsBeat KC staff of Randy Mason, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Sam McDowell, Jesse Newell, and Vahe Gregorian for sharing their insights. Morning Sports Edition is the best digital sports page in America. Chiefs, college football and basketball, Royals, Sporting KC, The Current, plus dozens of pages of national and international sports, all a few clicks away. Check it out at liveedition.kansascity.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in and around Kansas City.